Hey, 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 please.
Okay, got you. Hi guys, how you doing? Um, Welcome to our Agile for Tuesday, and as always, a pleasure to see you. We have a very interesting topic here, PI planning. One of the things I saw in the Telegram, you guys are doing some amazing work, by the way. And then there I saw a thought about, wow, there's a lot of information flowing, and you know, I want to before we start, pump the brakes just a little bit and just invite any question you may have for especially the last couple of sessions, because I know a lot of information has been coming down the pipeline. And I'm actually going to go through, instead of just blanketly asking, I'm just going to go one by who's here right now, and just everybody give me something that they have a question or comment about, that maybe you want a little bit of clarity. Emma, you're at the top for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe you came in first and it's going down. I have Emma. I got Yaroslav. I got Nina. And then, wait, who's my last young lady here? Well, two. Alti, and then Irina's coming in. But Emma, I'll start with you.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Mike.
How are you? It's good seeing you again.
Good. Nice seeing you as well. I don't know. I don't have any questions so far. Everything is pretty clear. Everything so far I'm familiar with. Not sure. I think this is the first time we talked together. I missed the previous classes with you, but I'm a QA engineer, so I worked with Safe Agile. Like we did this
Oh, you have
like
some exposure. That's why, because I'm wondering why
PI.
you don't have any questions. You already
Yeah.
have some experience.
We did the
Okay.
quarterly planning, the same thing, or the release train. So like pretty familiar with this. So I'm just
Oh, then I'm going now. When I have this type of experience here, I'm going to invite you. You're going to be helping with this conversation. So thanks for letting me know.
oh no.
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to be collaborating, because I want to tap into even your practical experience in this too. So we have another purpose for you here. Thanks for letting me know you have that experience. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, so everything seems great so far. I'm still learning a few things. I don't know it all, right? Because I haven't worked in this role. I just been observing. So I'm learning some things as
That's a good posture to be in. Well, you stand by.
well.
You're
Okay.
going to be participating very, very much in this. So
Okay.
I'll put you on pause now. Let's go down. Uh, how are you doing, Mr. Yaroslav?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. You guys are doing amazing in all of your boards and everything that you've been coming up with, asking some great questions. What question do you have? I mean, you may have one, 10, I don't know, but I want to at least get one from you.
Okay, I have a couple of the questions I put on Jira, so I don't forget it.
Oh, Jira, like
Yeah.
in terms of the agile use of Jira or the technical use of Jira itself?
No, it's different questions because I was looking for product owner. Uh, then I have some questions about Scrum Master.
Go ahead and
So,
ask those. The technical on Jira, I think we need to have a session where we navigate a little bit through Jira on it. You have to see it. It's going to take a lot of time. Well, take more time than we have. So let me hear your product owner and your Scrum Master questions. Others will also maybe have some questions about it as well, or learn from what you have to ask. So what do you have? What question do you have?
okay, I have like different questions. Okay, so first one, pretty much I have to estimate, but okay, this one I
Did
already.
you want to share your screen? You want me to give you screen share? Are you going to show
Oh
something, or
yeah,
you just?
oh yeah, definitely. That would be
No
much.
problem. Yeah, I think being visual is very helpful. So let
Yes.
me go ahead and give you a screen share here. One moment. Un momento, por favor. And I
I can.
make you right now co-host, and feel free to pull your screen up. I'm going to stop mine, by the way.
Okay.
We both can't share at the same time. Well, we could, but you know. How's everybody else doing, by the way? How you guys doing there? Happy Tuesday.
Okay, so
Oh, you're right on the board. Okay,
yeah,
beautiful.
I put it right here, like all the questions, and
For some reason, can you do a control plus to just make your screen just a tad bigger? The writing is so small.
okay, so you want me to make it bigger, right? Hold on,
Yeah, just a tad, maybe 1 or 2 notches, and we should be good.
hold on, let me see. Okay, percentage zoom.
Now, I will ask you this is before you open it. So you say you have some product owner questions, and you also have Scrum Master questions.
Yeah, like Jira, planning.
Well, I'll ask. Here's a question for you. When you say a product owner question, are you talking about specifically with the backlog, with some of the requirements, or what we're going to call the feed backlog items, with some estimating, with some user story point estimating? What category would you?
Okay, when I did like product owner, Scrum Master, when I did Scrum Master, like research about it, right?
Uh-huh.
Let me see right here. I have some question about like team backlog, supporting team. So I put all the questions is right here. Like let's say DCU. I put it like description. What does it mean, like DCU?
Where did you see it?
DCU.
And do a control plus about 2 times so you can make your font just a little bit bigger.
I already did.
Control, hold down. Are you on Mac or you on PC?
On Mac.
Oh, I think you have to do Command plus then.
Yeah, but I make it.
Okay, you can zoom anything to make it bigger. Now,
Yeah.
I'll ask you first, since we're on safe, because it's not something that happens with a lot of this terminology, depending on what methodology, framework, or approach. Those are interchangeable terms people use to describe the different types of agile. So Scrum is one of them. We're talking about safe here now because it's scaled agile. So sometimes the terminology is a little bit different depending on what approach of agile we're talking about. So your nomenclature you're looking now, you're getting from the scaled agile, obviously. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you see it in your little notes here that you're pulling up on the screen? Because I want to reference the resource that you're pulling from. So we're on the same page.
I was pulling from, hold on, it's probably 1 second. Scrum Master.
No, I give you 10 seconds, man. 1 second's not enough time. You understand? You didn't catch my joke? You only give yourself 1 second. You can't even click a mouse that fast. So I give you 10.
Scrum Master, product owner, hold on. Shit, I did
Now you're staying product owner, but you're on the Scrum Master page.
Yeah. I did probably the product. Okay, let's keep this one. I'll go back and find it.
Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll table that one for now. Put in the parking
this
lot.
one.
Are you referring to daily stand-up? The daily stand-up?
Oh, Emma. See, I know she's going to be able to really jump in there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because it says DCU, and
DSU.
DSU. What does it mean? Like
oh, Emma, tell us which your experience there. Thank you for jumping in there. What is it?
For daily stand-up, it's like usually about 15-minute meeting, and you talk about what did you accomplish yesterday, what you're going to accomplish today, do you have any blockers, and it goes like a round robin with the engineering team. The Scrum Master holds this meeting and the engineers participate.
All right.
Short answer, but
no. That's a very good answer here. Matter of fact, let me show you something. I'm going to show you something here. And it's good you're asking this question because before we go on to PI, which is a scaled version of everything we're doing, all you're doing now is you're stepping it up to larger teams. Here, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but when you do the traditional agile, or traditional and agile are kind of polar opposites, because in product management, you have traditional product management, also called waterfall and also called predictive. And when you have agile, it's a little bit different. But we have all of these various frameworks of agile. Now, Scrum is the most popular. You guys have heard of Scrum, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sure.
Okay, somebody tell me something. All right, you heard of it. Scrum is the most popular, but you have so many other different types. I want to show you an image here of what we're going to call the Scrum sprint process. This visual is going to give you what you see and then more. Now, the reason why I want to do this from the Agile, because when you go to PI planning, you're talking scale, which exponentiates what we're going to see here in Agile. Agile teams are typically from 5 to 9 people, right? When you get to scale, we're talking about teams that are 125. And then you get to trains, that's a train typically up to 125. You have multiple trains of 125, and then you call those solution trains. Release trains are 125 people, globally dispersed throughout the enterprise. Solution trains are multiples of 125, so let's get really huge. So PI planning, now we're talking about being able to manage that scale. That's why it's scaled Agile. But what we're going to do when we talk about just the traditional Agile, why am I saying traditional? Traditional is something different. When you talk about the kind of the basic form of Agile, Scrum being the most popular, 5 to 7. So let's keep it there. And then PI, the bigger one, is going to make more sense, be more digestible. So we have the stakeholders, which includes the customer, everybody that's impacted by this project. You have the product owner. The product owner is really the representative for the customer on our team. So they're brokering the relationship between the customer, that's the person who's getting the product, the service, the result, what we're building, what we're delivering, and then our Agile team. Who's the Agile team? Product owner is part of the team, the Scrum Master is part of the team, and the development team itself. Don't get the word development team twisted, because a lot of people think of that, you're thinking of like the program, right? The software development. But when I say development team, it's just everybody else. Everybody okay with that? So 3 main roles. You got the product owner. This is one of the people you have the question about. You have the Scrum Master. This is the other person you have a question about. And then you have the team. Any question about that? Anybody? Emma, what do you think? Am I on track here so far?
You're perfect.
Okay, let's look at this diagram. Do you guys see this screen share?
No, Dr. Mike, actually, you're not sharing your
Oh my
screen.
gosh. See, you guys should have said something earlier. I didn't know I had you in the dark like that. All right, here you go. All right, it's gonna stop yours. I'm gonna bring this one. How about now?
Yeah,
All right.
it's great. Now we see.
Okay. I thought you were seeing this the whole time. No wonder you're just like so quiet over there. Okay, so you see the stakeholders, you see the product owner, representative for the customer who we're building this product for. It does not matter if this product is a software application we're building, if it's a program, if it's a McDonald's building, you know, a physical McDonald's building, if it's whatever. It's a product, we're building it, the customer has requirements, and we're going to deliver per the customer requirements. Although in Agile, we typically don't use the term requirements. That's where we get the backlog, right? The backlog, because the backlog is the list of features, user stories that have to be delivered. And when all of those are done, that product backlog, that list of items, then we have completed, we built this product. And that's why the product owner is responsible for that list, because it's a list that we get from the customer, right? The product owner interfaces with the customer, understands what the customer wants. In a traditional, this would be the same role as a business analyst. You guys ever heard of a BA, business analyst? So the business analyst in traditional is going to be the one getting the requirements. But here, it's the product owner is really the main person. So again, you can look at the product owner as they're part of our team. They're part of the Agile team, but they really are the customer's representative, right? They know exactly what the customer wants. They have that relationship with the customer. And now they're coming to us, our team, managing our team, facilitating our team to make sure that we deliver the product, service, or result per the customer needs, okay? The Scrum Master is in charge of the process. So we're doing this delivery in a Agile fashion. By the way, I think, let me show you something about Agile, because you're going to get confused sometimes with these things. I mentioned to you, you have a lot of different Agile methodologies. Some people call it methodologies. Some people call it framework. Some people call it approaches. I just want to come down here and have you look at this. Can you see my screen with these various frameworks?
Yes, we are seeing. And also, Dr. Mike, can I ask to share previous website link?
You
to
want me to share it, or you gonna share it?
No. I'm asking, can you please share link to Zoom chat?
Wait, which you mean the one that we were just looking at?
Previous page.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Previous
gonna
page.
give you all
Yeah.
of this. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna give
Thank
you all. Right now, I'm just popping back and forth just to lay some basic groundwork here. But yes, absolutely. So you see these various frameworks we're looking at right now? Okay. So you know about Scrum. Everybody talks about Scrum. Scrum is so popular, people think when you say Scrum, you're talking about Agile. But you see, you have the adaptive software, you have Agile modeling, you have discipline Agile, and this is just some of them, right? Kanban is its own thing. You have Lean, you have extreme programming, you have feature-driven. All of these are different ways that you can implement Agile. And then here are some of the other ones, right? These are specific to software development. And some of the processes, paired programming, etc. So the list goes on. But I'm going to keep it simple because I want two, just for you to focus on two so you don't get too confused. When you talk about PI planning, we're talking about scaled Agile, which is safe. So we may not get too deep into it today because I want you to get some basic understanding before we scale. But the one you hear most about is this Scrum, right? Everybody hears of Scrum, right? So the difference only between Scrum and what we see here, this is the link you want me to share right here, right? This is generic Agile, really. Certain terms get used in Agile, and the Scrum is so popular, you'll hear the Scrum term and think that's Agile. So this thing we're looking at called a sprint, if you're looking at another implementation of Agile, or let me say methodology, approach, or framework, you would call this same thing an iteration. An iteration is a sprint's an iteration. They're interchangeable terms. Sprint is just the Scrum brand naming convention for Agile. So everybody thinks it's all the sprint is it. It's like some people drive an SUV and everybody calls it a Jeep. When we know a Jeep is a particular brand, it looks kind of SUV-ish, but if it's not a Jeep brand, it's not a Jeep. It's just an SUV. So Sprint is a Scrum brand name for an iteration. But I'm going to answer your question about a daily stand-up. I just want you to get the framework here so it'll make sense. So we got the product owner. They represent the customer. You got the team that's doing all the work. They're cross-functional teams, right? So whatever the product that we're developing, I'm just going to say a software product to keep it simple. So some of the members of this team might be your developer. They'll be the business analysts. They'll be the user experience people. They'll be the user interface people. They'll be, if we're developing an application for accounting, there'll be some people from accounting in it. We may have some HR. So we'll have representatives from all of those, what we call functional areas. And that's why it's cross-functional team, because we pull somebody from all of the functional areas, so it comes cross-functional, all on the same team. And here they're using the terminology development team. Why? Because of this methodology, this approach, this framework of Agile, that's the name that we give the team. Some other framework may just call it team, or they may call something else. But the bottom line, it's the people doing the work. Are you guys okay on that? So far, so good. Product owners, the customers, essentially, they're on our team, though. So there's the customer's voice on our team. They're representing the customer, but they're with us. So they're going to make sure we're aligned with what the customer wants. The development team's doing the work, cross-functional team, pulling people from all of the functional areas, get them all in one room. So we have a conversation and everybody's on the same page. And then you have the Scrum Master is going to be in charge of the process. What do we mean process? To make sure that we're doing things the Agile way. So what's the Agile way? The Agile way, you have to have a backlog, because that is how we're going to get our list of things that have to be done to deliver this product. That's why it's a product backlog. Once we complete all the things in the list, then the product is finished. We can deliver. Who's in charge of that, guys? The product owner or the Scrum Master? Who's in charge? Who's responsible for the backlog?
Product owner.
Product owner.
Product owner. Everybody agrees with that? Anybody think anything different?
Or development team. Could be development team.
Well, you know what? That's actually a pretty good point, because it depends on the question. Because if you get the question for the certification exam, you actually have a point. Because the product owner owns the backlog, is accountable for the backlog. But the team actually does work together to help navigate it. And what I mean by that, we're going to have this backlog prioritized. Think of the backlog as a list, like a to-do list. But what do you do first? Let's say you have a to-do list with 100 items. Where do you start? So you have to prioritize the backlog. And so the product owner owns that, but it's the team together that kind of says, okay, well, let's decide as a team, since we're going to be the ones doing work, what goes first, what goes second, what goes third, kind of. Why do I say kind of? Because the prioritization of the backlog is really based on delivering value first. So really the items in the top of the backlog are going to be the ones that are going to be that deliver value to the customer first. Our highest value delivery items go top, and the one that deliver the least amount of value go at the bottom, and then everything in between. So of course the product owner knows that very well because they're in direct contact with the customer. But also you do want the team's voice in there. It's not a dictatorship, right? We're servant leaders. We're motivating and we're inspiring the teams. We do need the team like Yara, Shishlumbach. You guys, are a part of this. Your voice is very important. So they will have a voice also in it, because if you and I are the product owner, let's say we're all product owners here, and we have 100 items, and we say we're going to do these 10 items first, and the product, because we know this is what's important to the customer, it delivers value. But let's say 5 of those things deliver equal value. Then we want the team who has to do the work's voice to chime in and say, okay, well, number one, we can do faster. Like, we know the work that's involved. We have to write the code. We have to, get the requirements from the user. We have to, get certain software. We have to integrate certain systems. So they know some of the technicalities that you product owner, we as product owners don't know. And that's the reason why we want a cross-functional team, because we need that voice in the conversation. We cannot make all these decisions ourselves because we don't know everything. Sorry, question?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
If product owner and development team prioritize sprint backlog, right? So which is has more value, so they put in the first place. Then Scrum Master with the team, do they have to go over again and to put which is more like valuable, or on what?
Okay, what did you ask about the Scrum Master?
The Scrum Master with the team going on the product backlog. And
yeah, but the Scrum Master is only going to make sure that that this backlog is being used. So let's say we are going to try to deliver customer value, which should be based on this backlog, all of these items in the backlog being done. When they're all completed, we have a finished product that aligns with the value, customer value that is the requirement, meets the requirements, right? Delivers value, realizes customer benefit. So let's say we try to do that and we're not using the backlog, we use some other method. The Scrum Master says, oh no, wait a minute, we're doing Scrum. So in Scrum, we have to use a backlog. So they're going to make sure we're using backlog, because that's the way you do Scrum, and that's the way you do Agile. Then you want to break that product backlog into bite-sized chunks, because we cannot eat a whole elephant overnight. So we have to break this elephant down into bite-sized chunks. So we have a sprint planning meeting. This is equivalent to PI planning in scaled Agile. So I want to give you this scaled down so you understand the flow. Now, when we talk about scaled Agile, which is a bigger version of this, you have 125 persons on a train. You call it Agile release train, or an ART. And you have multiple ARTs to create what we call solution trains. These are huge teams. But here, let's just keep it at Agile. So we have teams of 5 to 7. And we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to do this sprint planning to say, okay, how are we going to break this product backlog into bite-sized chunks? In other words, sprintable chunks. What can we do in a sprint? We want this thing broken into sprints, sprintable sizes.
Mhm.
So a sprint is how long? 1 to 4 weeks, right?
Yes.
So then we're going to go into this planning and figure out what are these chunks that we're going to break this product backlog to make these sprint backlogs, which in a sprint backlog is what we can do in a sprint cycle. The team decides it's going to be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, what our sprint cycle is going to be. And so now in our sprint planning, we're going to say, okay, well, let's break this thing down into chunks that we can do. Let's just say our sprint cycle, we decide it's 2 weeks long. So everything in the sprint backlog is 2 weeks worth of work. So we have multiple sprint backlogs. We're going to work on a backlog each sprint. But how do we know it's in the backlog? We figure it out during our sprint planning. That makes sense?
Mhm. And
And
also,
we have to have a goal, sprint goal, right? So in sprint planning, we come up with our sprint goal. What is the goal for a sprint cycle, 2 weeks? And in sprint planning, we put just enough in there to do in a single sprint. And then in the next sprint, we're going to do enough of those items to put in the next sprint, next sprint, next sprint. And we keep sprinting till we get everything done. But your question was about the daily stand-up. So let's keep looking at this chart just for a minute. So here, we're in a sprint. We go and we break this product backlog into sprint backlogs. So we have a lot of sprint backlogs. But let's just think of one of them right now, just so we can get our brain around what's happening. So in a sprint backlog, it's the amount of features or user stories, because that's how the language we use to describe the items that are in a backlog. Backlog is going to be features or user stories typically. So we have enough of those features and user stories, a sprintable amount. We'll do it in 2 weeks. We plan out what that is in our sprint planning based on the goals that we established for that sprint cycle, 2 weeks we said. Then we sprint. So we sprint for 2 weeks. That means we're going to get the work done. Then we're going to deliver whatever we said we're going to do in our sprint goal. Whatever we decided our sprint goal was, we delivered after that sprint cycle, which is 2 weeks. And at the end, we do a demo, which is the sprint review. Demo, we're reviewing the product. And then we do a retrospective, which we're reviewing the process. Since we're reviewing the product, it is the product owner that's really driving this sprint review. And since we're reviewing the process with the retrospective, this is the Scrum Master's responsibility. He's the owner of this, or really the facilitator, let's say. But every day in that sprint cycle, we said it's 2 weeks. Every morning, we're going to have a meeting. We call the DSU, the Daily Stand-Up. That's it, Emma? We said Daily Stand-Up, DSU? Is that right, guys?
Yes.
Okay, you guys okay with that? Here's how you can think of this. We're not even going to sit down. This thing's going to be so quick, we don't have time to sit out. That's why we call it Daily Stand-Up. You're going to come in there. We're going to stand up. You're going to have your coffee. And we're not even going to be in there long enough for your coffee to get cold. 15 minutes, we're standing up, nobody sit down, and we just want to know 3 things. What basically have we done? What do we plan on doing? And what impediments are there? So one thing that we really want to take out of that sprint cycle, all we want to find out in 15 minutes is what are the barriers, what are the blockers, what are the obstacles? Because when we identify those, that Scrum Master is going to now work on getting those things out of the way. And every day we want to know that, first thing in the morning. That's your daily stand-up. Sorry, that was a long answer with DSU. But that's the answer to your
I
question.
just have one question with the link that you showed. I saw the refinement kind of happening late into the sprint.
Okay, let me bring it back up so we can read it. I like to see.
I'm so sorry. Someone have echo. Can you put on mute, please? Irena?
Somebody got mute.
Yeah,
I hear
thank
that.
you.
Okay, so I see
Okay.
the refinement kind of in the end. Doesn't refinement happen?
Okay, wait. Let me bring it up. Let me make sure we're looking at the same thing here. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
slide over.
Doesn't
Okay, you see refinements where?
product backlog refinement meeting, doesn't that happen before sprint planning?
Oh, the refinement.
Because in order for us to plan our sprint, we need to make sure that the tickets, or whatever we're gonna bring on into the sprint, is refined, right?
Okay, first, let's just answer something. You already see that word. It means something to you. I want to ask a question. Everybody see this thing Emma's talking about, this product backlog refinement meeting? Everybody see that?
Yes, here, yes.
Yes.
Well, I know
In
you
this
see it, Emma. You're the one that brought it up. I want to hear somebody else. Okay, I hear some more people saying yes.
Yes.
Emma, don't say anything. What is that? What does a backlog refinement mean? What is that? What does that mean? What is it? And what is the point? Why are we even doing this? Okay, Emma, you can talk now. Everybody else is quiet. Go ahead.
I'm sure they know.
Yeah, they just
So-
don't want to say anything. But okay, you go ahead. And say
to make sure that we are bringing the highest priority, right? We have to refine the stories, and they have to meet the DOR, the definition of ready. So the stories have to have an acceptance criteria, a description, task, subtask, pointed, right? The stories have to be refined in order for us to plan, because if we don't know how long it's going to take us to complete this story, we cannot commit to this, right?
Very good. Elena, are you there? You snuck in
Yes.
here.
Yes, I couldn't
I'm
jump on.
surprised you're not saying anything.
No, because I was late. I was like late. I'm
Oh, you
just
want to
listening.
sneak in. You don't want anybody to know you came in late. I already caught you though.
Sorry.
Okay. It's good. No, okay, so listen to this now. Remember this backlog. It has in some items. I'm going to make it more simple. No, I keep saying 100. That's so big. You know, we have too much to think about. But let's say we have a backlog of 20 items, product backlog. Then we break them into 5 sprints. And each sprint, we have 4 items, right? So we have, let's just even do 5 sprints, 5 items in each sprint. That's our 20, right? 5, sprint number 1, 5, sprint number 2, 5, sprint number 3, 5, 4, boom, that'll be 20. When we get all 5 of those sprints done, we're finished, assuming everything goes according to plan. So when we go to our first sprint cycle with 5 backlog items, that would be our sprint backlog. Let me bring the graphic up again so you can see the visual. So, you know, just picture this in your mind. So our product backlog has 20 items. We go into sprint planning. In sprint planning, we say we're going to do 5 items, backlog items per sprint. So our sprint backlog becomes 5 items. Then that's our goal. Like our goal is we're going to do 5 items here. Well, our goal is we want to deliver whatever. We're going to have something like a deliverable goal. But to realize that goal, we say, well, we can do 5 of these items per sprint cycle. Sprint cycle's 2 weeks. We get in there, we have our sprint backlog of 5, and in 2 weeks, we're going in there and we do it. Now, what has to happen is after that sprint cycle is when we will have a refinement, because what is refinement doing? When we went in there, we have 20 items. We prioritized them number 1 through 20. We took the top 1 through 5. Why? Because when we say top, the ones that deliver the most value. And we have ways, that's where estimation and all this comes in. Whole different topic. Let's assume that's already done. So we take our top 5 value items, run those first. We do the review. So the review, we do a demo. The customer looks at it. Let's say a website. So we're going to build a website, and these 5 items say, okay, we're going to build the main page. In the first sprint cycle, we're going to have a main page, and we're going to show 4 menu items. Main page is 1, and then 4 other menu items. We go through that sprint cycle 2 weeks later, and the review is, here, customer, go to www.website. Customer clicks around, say, okay, yeah, the 5 are here. Perfect, this works well. That's the sprint review. You're doing a demo. Then the sprint retrospective, the Scrum Master says, oh, okay, yes, we got that done in a sprint cycle, but they may find it in those daily stand-ups or somewhere along the way, there could be some efficiency increase that we could have gotten more done, or we could have done it in a better way if we cut out some time somewhere, or somewhere in that process, we could have improved to even delivered better, right? But using the sprint process itself, enhancing the sprint process itself, they're more process driven. Anyway, that's the roles of that. Now, we only have 15 items left in the product backlog because we did 5 of them in sprint number 1. Is that right? 5 in number 1. And we have, how many more left? 15. Or what did we say we're doing? We're doing, let me get my numbers straight. We're doing 5. We have 20, so we have 4 cycles. 1 is done. We have 15 left, 3 more sprint cycles to go. We come around and we say, well, wait a minute. We thought numbers 6 through 15 is what we, or 6 through 20 is what we have to do left. But the customer comes back and says, all right, well, yes, we like those 4 menu items that you gave us. However, we told you we wanted black, purple, and green. And now that we're looking at this during the demo, we change. We want the color to be blue, brown, and gold. So that means that the priority of those rest of those 15 backlog items, something may change from the way it was before. We had 1 through 20 in order. We got 5 out of the way, so now we have 1 through 15. But now number 1 is not number 1 anymore. Number 6 now has to move up to number 1 based on what we did in that sprint review, the feedback we got from the customer. And that's what the refinement is. We may have to change around something based on the feedback that we get from that sprint review or the retro, right? That's why we say it's a progressive elaboration, meaning that as you move through the process, as you progress through the process, what you really do next gets elaborated on because you're going to base it on the feedback you get from the customer. Let me show you a backlog refinement illustration here. You'll get this one too, because this visual is going to be very helpful. So let's say backlog refinement, FINEMET, and here we go. I'll show you a visual on this. And look at this graphic right here. This is so beautiful. If I get it to show up here. Okay, so what I mean by this backlog refinement, does everybody see this graphic that I'm showing you here? Everybody can see this?
Yes.
All right. This is a list of the items that are to be done in our entire backlog. I'll make it smaller so it all can fit on one page. So in the beginning, we say, oh, this is the order based on the value that's going to be driven first. Based on our estimation, we say this at the top is going to deliver the most value. This at the bottom delivers the least amount of value. We're going to start at the highest value items first and work our way down. So we go through a sprint cycle, and now we have whatever's left. And based on that review, the sprint review, you know, we do a demo to the customer. Customer gives us their feedback. The lessons we learn from that feedback. Then we say, wait a minute. They may even add something in that wasn't there before. So that's what this insert is. This was not in the original backlog because when we did the sprint review and the customer did the demo and interacted with the product that we had at that point, they give us feedback. So, oh, wow, we're missing something. We want 6 menu items now. And you don't want it to get out of scope because obviously one thing that was happening when Sprint Agile first started, because Agile is so adaptable and we will adjust based on what the customer's feedback is, because remember, it's about the customer satisfaction, right? That's what the name of the game. You guys remember what the Agile principles were and the Agile values? Okay, let me show you the Agile. What do we want to do? The Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto of Software Development. Have you guys seen this yet? Agile Manifesto? Can you see my screen? You remember this? Okay.
Yes.
Here's the Agile Manifesto, just real quick. This is what everything is based on. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So we're not going to get so caught up in processes and tools. We want interaction and individual, engagement. We also are not going to get caught up so much in comprehensive documentation. We want working software. You could switch out the word software for product or service, because if we're building a McDonald's, then it's not software we're delivering, but the working deliverable is what we're talking about. We want customer collaboration. See, this is important. Over contract negotiations. So when the customer gives us that feedback, I mean, this is designed for customer centricity. We want to deliver to the customer. It's about the people, the customer. We want to make them happy. And then we also respond to change. So even though we have a plan, right? Instead of 5, not that we're not going to follow the plan, but it's if the customer gives us that feedback and says, oh, wow, it's, 6 menu items instead of 5, we actually, Agile's designed to adapt to that. And the problem it was having in the early stages when we were doing Agile, when it first came out, even before it was called Agile, because Agile really started in 2001. Here you can see let me show you here. When you look here down at the bottom of this screen, or at the top of the screen somewhere, it's supposed to be, maybe my screen's not enough. Let me make this a little smaller. This whole Agile thing really started in 2001. So what you see here is that and it didn't gain traction because they were not completing projects. That's what I want to say. There was so much flexibility to the customer. The customer would say, I want this now, and I want that. Oh, now did I see it changes and change? And Agile projects were not getting complete. So that's why you have a really solid product owner, and you have to have a really solid Scrum Master, because that's what's going to control having that flexibility to meet those customer requirements, but at the same time, make sure you deliver the product and project and you close this project out and it doesn't keep going on forever and ever. Can you see where that can be a problem? That flexibility, we're so customer centric and we are trying to please the customer all the time, that if we're not careful, the project will never get finished. Can you guys picture that?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, by the way, you see this Agile software manifesto? I think I showed you before. We had all these independent signatories here so we can make it legitimate, because these projects were not, people were questioning whether Agile was going to be legit, kind of like cryptocurrency in the beginning. Is it live or is it Memorex? So they had to go out and get signatures from industry leaders from 2002. But then as it moved over here to 2016, it really started to get traction. Agile was very legitimate, and no more signatures necessary from these independent people after July of 2016, because everybody knows about Agile now. It's the #1 project management methodology in the world. And I think I showed you already.
Dr. Mike, you're muted. You're muted.
Testing. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, what was the last thing you heard?
But after 2016, no signatures were necessary.
Yes, no more signatures necessary after 2016, because Agile had become fully legitimate. So they did no longer need to get, these industry professionals to sign off on it, because they refined it and it was delivering results and everybody knew about Agile. Okay, yes, that's what I was saying. Wait a minute.
Dr. Michael, I have a quick question.
Yes, what is your question, sir?
The question is, we said if it was a sprint, then a review, and the customer want to add different colors. So it's just adding another. And let's say team decides.
You're talking about the backlog refinement.
Yes.
Here. So I'm just saying what refinement, and I'll let you finish. I just want to clarify something. So when you're refining a backlog, it can be anything. It can be something getting inserted. So that's why you see in this image of something is being inserted. Like this is something new that was not in the backlog before. Or it can change in the order of priority. So it can be something that was a lower priority getting moved up to a higher priority. An item can get deleted out of the backlog. All of these things constitute backlog refinement, any one of these things or a combination of them. But go ahead.
Yeah, and let's say they want to change the color. So the team go back and say, okay, let's do it. Let's do again sprint, change the color, right? And when they done it, they send demo to the customer. And they about to go in another epic, another sprint. And the customer go back, say, hey, you added the color, but with that backlog and sprint, I want to edit something else.
Yeah, so and you're correct. And this exactly what was happening in the very early stages of Agile. And there was a time when they didn't know if Agile was going to make it, because they were not completing the Agile projects because of what you're saying. So now this is and this is real world. Now there's a theory and textbook on it. So you go and read all the theory and textbook, Agile, Scrum, it's perfect. Oh, everything's so great. I'm telling you a combination of that, because you need to know it to pass the test. But I'm also giving you the real world. So what the solution to that is you as product owner and Scrum Master have to be able to manage that and know where to kind of negotiate to kind of strike a balance between saying, okay, customer, you know, we got to move forward, and also satisfying them at the same time. This is where the product owner comes in.
Yeah, because we can go over and over, but we have to go another sprints, another backlogs. So the customer can edit and edit like on the same sprint, and we're gonna.
You see, the product owner's job's not easy. It sounds so glamorous. That's why I wanted to let you know. Some people say, oh, I want to be product owner, because it's a very powerful position. It's an extremely powerful role, because you are the broker between the customer and the company, and you actually call the shot. You make the final decision. I mean, it's a very powerful role. So everybody wants to have that kind of glory and glamour. But what you're saying right now is very real, and you have to be able to manage that.
You have to kind of stop say, hey, no, we have to finish this one first. We're gonna go next. As soon as you have some extra time, we can go back and edit the future what customer asks.
Well, what you do now, I mean, there's different techniques. Now we're getting into the execution. But what I usually do when I train the product owners on this is to give them an option. I say, okay, if we're going to do that, and in this refinement, we're going to have to reprioritize here. And it's very possible that some of the things that wind up in the low priority here, because we also have a timeline, may not get executed. So when we reprioritize, is that important enough? Is that going to give that we're talking about value? Let's deliver value first, and we want this product to get delivered. So is this color change you're talking a high enough value where you want to put it on top of all these other things here? And just to let you know, some of these things at the bottom may not actually get done
because we have time frame.
So what is the priority?
Yeah, because we have a framework, so we have to done with the project.
You're managing time. You still, even though it's agile now in traditional. Now, let me give you this. So this is where a lot of times you still have to use your traditional product management techniques. So in traditional product management, you're managing something called triple constraints, right? I want to just deviate here for a minute, because you want to still use this as a mindset, even though we're talking about agile. Are you guys familiar with the triple constraints in traditional product management? Triple constraints are time, cost, and scope. So scope is, what are you doing? What is the body you're doing? If you're telling me we're doing a website, in the website, we have to have a scope. You're not going to use this language in Agile. You want to have a mindset around it. Scope means, all right, we're going to do a website that basically is an informational website, which means we're not going to really be selling products on this website. So if I'm doing a backlog items of the features, then we go into the demo and, the sprint review. And in the sprint review, the customer says, oh, now I want to sell products. That's in traditional product management, we're going to call it out of scope. You don't have that language in Agile. In Agile, remember, you're adaptable and flexible, etc. But you have a mindset around it. So you have to come back and really, in a diplomatic way, and even get your team, and maybe you have to get some other stakeholders in the company and play a little politics, understanding who has influence and all of this kind of thing. You just want to accomplish the goal. But at the end of the day, you have to get the customer, number one, to pull them in so they don't go all over the place like that. And then number two, you put it on them to make the decision. You empower them. It's all about empowerment. So you empower them to decide what has the higher priority, right? Because if you're telling me you want to spend all this time changing color, then some of this other functionality we have here, maybe that's lower priority. You don't need that in order for us to deliver this product right now, to meet our product goal and our sprint goals. And that will be another, maybe you launch another project to do that later. Or if you're telling me, okay, you want this color, but we put it on a low priority, and if we get around to changing back to that color, whatever it is, then we do it. Otherwise, you would at least have a product that's delivered that has the primary functionality that you want, and then you can launch another project after that to change color or something else you might find along the way. But this is why I want to give you the reality of what a product owner really is doing, because otherwise it sounds so glamorous and everything's going to be so perfect. These are the types of things you're going to have to deal with as product owner.
Okay, one more question. If the customer added that another option and stuff like that, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you guys another 3 weeks, but I want you to work on all backlogs, what we created, not to delete any, because we adding extra stuff and you have more like another like 3 weeks to work on it?
Well, that's a hypothetical scenario, and when you're in the dynamic, a real world dynamic of that, there's a lot of moving parts. You're going to have to kind of negotiate that out with other players, because the customer, number one, when they do this, they have a budget. So let's say they're going to charge you $1 million for this project. And they come and say, okay, well, I'm going to give you 3 weeks because this color is so important. At the same time, you have to say, all right, well, that's going to also be another $250,000, right? Are you going to get approval for that? So anyway, it's a longer conversation is what I'm saying. And there's a lot of moving parts. And yes, all that has to be negotiated.
But it's possibility, like they can approve it, like, okay, you have 3 more weeks to work on it. We fine with that. Just do all of it.
Then you're going to have to go. I mean, then this is where your expertise has to come in, because if you just agree and they say, oh yeah, I'm giving you 3 weeks, and you as product owner don't bring up all of the different other contingencies, then when it's an overrun of $250,000, if you did not take them through the cycle of recalculating, that's going to also fall on you. So the good things fall on the product owner as well. Oh, great, you delivered this product, fantastic. Good, the product owner, you really helped to make this a successful thing. Also, if you make an arrangement like that and you don't calculate the financials and you wind up on a shortfall, you also going to get that,
Punishment.
So you have to be able to negotiate all those things and think about everything. So it's a good question, but that's even the reason why it's good, because when you go through these training classes, they make everything sound so beautiful and perfect. But you have your work cut out for you, is what I'm saying. All of these things can come up, and they do. You have to be the one to kind of navigate that whole thing. So let's move to something that was one question. Well, let's move around here because we're running only 7 minutes left. Who else has a question? Oh my God, we didn't even talk about PI planning, only a little bit. We're gonna have to bring that topic back.
I have
Yes,
question about PI planning. Who's responsible and which level it's happened, in solution or essential? I'm like a little bit confusing. So sprint planning is for 2 week or 3 week, or 1 week for sprint. PA planning, it's quarterly planning for 3 months. But who is responsible for this? I'm like,
let me show you a nice little graphic of that. Okay, so this is actually something that let me pull this one up. We have laid out for you here. Oh, where's my little? Oh, Nina has her hand. Nina, you have the same question or a different one?
I have like a quick question.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and get you a quick one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to clarify, does demo of a product happen during the sprint review, or it has a separate meeting for it?
Oh, wait a minute. Let's go there. Yeah, and let's do that quick. I'll take like 5 minutes. You guys may mind hanging out an extra 10 minutes? I'm sorry, I don't want to hold you up for the night.
We could.
Just so we can, cover all of this and get some PI planning. Okay, so look at this here. Back to that graphic you're talking about. You're talking about the process. So let's go to the process here, because we do want to close that out probably before we jump too quickly. While we're looking at this graphic, ask your question once more. I want everybody to have a visual while we're talking about this. Repeat your question. I'm sorry.
So my question was, does demo of a product happen during the sprint review meeting, or it would have a
the sprint review is the demo.
Is the demo? Okay.
That's exactly what the sprint review is for. And the reason why that's a good question, for two things: how Agile works, and since we're saying sprint, it's Scrum. Remember, sprint is a Scrum terminology. If we're using some other framework, methodology, or approach to Agile, we would call this maybe an iteration. Most Agile frameworks call it iteration, but sprint is specifically a Scrum term. Now, Scale uses a lot of Scrum terminology too, and so do other frameworks. But just if you see some other type of Agile and they don't use sprint, I just want you to know sprint and iteration are the same thing. Sprint is very specific to Scrum framework. But the review is for the product, and it is the product demo. So at every sprint cycle, you're going to demo the product. And what you're doing is you're iterating. So really, you're building on that product every time, right? So the first time you might say, well, here's the menu items. The next time you might actually put the content in there. The next time you might put the pictures and content, let's just say writing. Next time you might put in the pictures. So each iteration, you're adding more and more of functionality. You're filling out that product backlog, right? You're chipping away at those backlog items. And so the reason why this is so powerful in Agile, because remember in traditional product management, you're going to do the whole thing. You say, okay, we're going to have a website. We're going to do everything in 1 year. And all you're doing is you're putting milestones out. And each milestone you're checking, okay, yes, we did everything that's in that list. We're on budget and we're on schedule. Then you move to the next and next. But there's no feedback loop in there to say, okay, is this what you want? Like you don't pause somewhere along the way and say, is this, before we build this whole thing out, are we on the right track? And so what Agile does by these sprints and iterations, it gives the opportunity to have these feedback loops, the sprint review. So you can find out, we call it failing fast. You can find out early, are you on the right track before you build the whole thing out? And then you can make the adjustment in the next sprint, right? And take those lessons learned as you're moving through. You're improving, continuously improving all the way through, and not waiting till the end to find out it's the wrong color, the wrong shape, the wrong size, the wrong everything. Then you have to scrap and start all over. Rework is the most expensive way to run a project. So you want to avoid rework and fail fast. So you're demoing at each sprint to get that feedback right away, and you can take that feedback with you into the next sprint cycle. Yeah, with the review, you're demoing the product.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Anything else on this process here? Is that
Can I ask? So basically, let's say like we have a sprint and the due date is like 15th of the month, and the next sprint, it started on the 16th, right?
Yes.
In between.
So okay, let me answer that question just another way. So first and foremost, the team decides what the sprint cycles are going to be. So when you say 13, 14, if we say a sprint cycle is 2 weeks, so we're going to go more by the 2 weeks than we are by the 13th and 14th. Of course, when we map out the calendar, we'll look at the calendar and know today is the 24th. And I look at the calendar right now, well, it's probably better if we start on Mondays, but we're on a Tuesday. So let's say the sprint cycle started Monday yesterday. And we say 2 weeks. So that's this week. Next Monday is 30th. And the one after that is the 6th of November. So this sprint cycle goes from the 23rd to the 5th of November, because the next sprint cycle is starting in the 3rd week. You have the whole of this week. You have the whole of the next week from Tuesday to the next two Tuesdays from now. The new sprint cycle starts. So 23rd of Monday, I'm sorry. Yesterday started it. 30th is the next one, the start of the next one. And so that next one ends on the 5th, because the 3rd Tuesday, Monday from now, I'm saying Tuesday, the 3rd Monday from now is the 6th. So on the 6th is the next sprint cycle.
Okay, but then how we like doing the sprint review? It goes like at the
sprint
end
review
of
is going to happen on the 5th, or I mean, you have to plan it on the calendar.
So
But
it's
the
gonna
sprint
be
review, let's say, would be on the 5th. I see what you mean. That if the next sprint cycle starts on the 6th,
yeah,
then
when
the
it's
sprint review is when. So you can put in time, and this is the same thing with PI planning. You block on a time. You may not start the next one exactly on the 6th. You may say, okay, well, we're going to start the next one on the following Monday.
Okay.
Because we're going to use some time in between there to do review, to do, you can have some
like
more planning in there. You may have to adjust. They have to do some backlog refinement. So all of this calendar thing has to be planned out with the team to build in those buffers. So there's two things. The textbook, we're just saying, here's how the process flows. This is a Scrum Master thing. And this is where the Scrum Master comes in, because the Scrum Master would help to coordinate all of this timing, because they're responsible for the process. So you're right. There's some little buffers we have to put in there. So the Scrum Master will help to facilitate that. But theoretically, that's how it, textbook wise, that's how it works. These timelines, 2 weeks, next cycle, 2 more weeks, next cycle. We have to, Scrum Master has to help make sure it's clean.
Thank you.
As a Scrum Master, can we put 1 week extra right away? So we have 2 weeks like for sprint, 1 week for review and editing stuff.
Yeah, but now you're coordinating with the team, so the Scrum Master's in charge of that. But with the team, everybody decides together, because somebody in the team might be like, "No, I'm on vacation," and all of these things come up. But yes, the Scrum Master will be the quarterback. Well, I don't know. Maybe you have some other sport. That's American football analogy. Will be responsible for that. But they need the voice of the other members of the team, because you are coordinating around people's schedules and, when they can and cannot do things. So that is why you need a Scrum Master to manage that whole thing.
Okay, one more question. Dr. Michael, let's say the sprint is finished in 2 weeks, right? And we're going on the next sprint. When the sprint is finished and we give the product for review, can we go on the next sprint by the time the first one is on a review?
That is another thing. So a couple of things that are in what you said. Number one, you might, and which was your first thought a minute ago almost, you might put a buffer in there so you can have the review, you can have all these things happen before the next sprint starts. But yes, the team may decide they can run sprints in parallel. So you might have a situation where that sprint ends, and then you have, the review and the retro happening. But at the same time, the next sprint is starting. Depends on the way the configuration of the teams are, depends on what the team agrees to. And so that is the Scrum Master going to, and the product owner to kind of together, because the Scrum Master is kind of making sure that the process, when are these things starting and stopping and blah, blah, that's their job. And the product owner at the same time is saying, okay, well, if we're going to start the next sprint in parallel, I need to make sure that we can deliver. So now the product owner also is involved, because they have to make sure that backlog can be delivered in whatever we're saying it's going to be. So both of them are working now.
What would be your suggestion? How is better? Like to do like parallel, or just add?
And there's no one way to answer that, because there's so many different dynamics. I mean, I work on a lot of different teams. So when we were doing, for example, we did the University System of Illinois, which is it's over 20,000 people at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, which is upstate. Downstate, you have Springfield. They had another 10,000. You have University of Chicago, Illinois. They had another something like 18,000. Then we had the University of Illinois Hospital healthcare system. They had another 13,000. So, you have to coordinate all of these different people and schedules and this and that. So there's no easy answer. It's going to depend on the environment that you're in, complexity of the project, and the people. And that's why you need, these product owners and Scrum Masters. As a matter of fact, we had multiple product owners and multiple Scrum Masters, which is now does lead into our PI planning, because even though PI is for large number of teams, the reason why you're doing that, because you have so many different people and a lot of complexity. And so when you get into like scale, it's designed to facilitate that large magnitude of complexity that's in there. But we didn't use scale there because we didn't have teams that big. We're using a lot of scaled concepts because of the complexity and how spread out the project was and that kind of thing. So some of these PI concepts we would have to kind of fuse in there, even though it wasn't that many people on each team. But anyway, there's no one answer. Every situation is different. Everyone is different. And this is why they want people to have a lot of experience when you're coming into these product owner and Scrum Master role, because you're kind of like an artist. I mean, what we're talking about now is the science of Agile. And so you have to know that first, because you need to know how it works. But now when you get into the actual doing, now we're talking about the art and science of it. Because, somebody goes in there and says, here's a canvas and here's some paint me a beautiful picture. And you get two people and their pictures are going to look different. Even if you tell them, paint a picture of that tree, and those two people, the tree's going to be different, right? It's just no one way to do any of this. But you have to know the science so you know what to do and how to do it. But depending on the situation you're in, you become an artist now. Creativity is a big part of this.
You have to balance it.
Big time. I would even say this, that the most challenging part of this is the people. I mean, it's good to have this construct because it gives you something, because everybody has a different idea. You know, the developers and the BAs and the this and the that. But what happens by having a framework like this is you can, you can mitigate the personality a little bit, because you say, well, this is how this process works. And so you can eliminate personality conflict because they want to make up their own thing in their own way of doing it and their own timing of doing it. You say, oh, no, guys, look, we have to agree on what a sprint cycle is going to be. So this means that, okay, what do we agree? 2 weeks? Okay, great. So that means every 2 weeks, we have to deliver something. Because these guys will procrastinate. They don't want to do it. They're busy. They're this, they're that. It gives you something to anchor in there and say every 2 weeks, or if you can't do it in 2, let's make the sprint cycle 3 weeks. But we need to agree on something. And that's the power of the tool. But the main problem you're going to have, or the main challenge, is dealing with people, because everybody has their own idea on how they think it should be. But at least you can anchor it in this framework and let them know this is how this works. And we have to do like.
Yeah, that's what I like you explain what you have to go through, because before it looks like Scrum Master easy, you just lay back, 15 minutes like meeting, what you're doing today.
That's why I'm telling you, that's why I said let's have a talk about this, because in this training, you get all of the technical. And so this is the textbook, perfect, picture perfect, it's it. So you're going to sit there like, oh, yeah, I want that job. And you make a lot of money and you don't do any work except just check this box, check that box. Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, Irina has some questions.
Yeah. People is the reality. You're dealing with people. That's the key.
I just want to like clear it up for myself, probably. The people who are working on the product backlog, like the teams, right? Yeah. So is this the same as like the development teams are like, this is like the same meaning of the people, like whoever worked on the product?
Who you mean who is well, the development team are the people doing the work. Okay, you're asking if it's the same people as what? Like
the way we have on the image, like the development team. So this is the team who are working on the sprints and the backlog?
Yes, so they are. And so if you take it to scale, let me give you the scale, since we're supposed to really be talking about the scale framework. But I find it difficult for people to really understand scale if they don't understand the basic model. Because what you're doing with scale is you're taking the basic model and you're amplifying it, making it more complicated, because you're dealing with bigger numbers of people, you're dealing with larger projects, you're dealing with greater degrees of complexity. So if you don't understand the basic, then the scale, you're going to get confused. Because how are you going to go to the big one? You don't understand the small one, right? But I'm going to bring this scale. You guys were asking about this. So you have the essential scale, because this model is essentially like a regular Agile. You have product owner, Scrum Master, team. So at the essential level here, you're essentially running an Agile project, just normally. When you start coming up to this release train engineer and the product management and that's now when the numbers are getting much bigger, because this Agile release train is no longer 5 to 9 people like you have in just the basic Agile. Here is very similar to like, SAFe, right? You got Scrum. This is like a Scrum construct that we just finished looking at. Backlog, blah, blah, blah. But they start adding a few layers, because you start with the PI planning, because there are greater complexities here. So we're going to talk quickly here about the PI planning. Irina, I see your hand up. Is it here?
No, it's already like, let me put it away.
You good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, let me scale really quick over to something about PI planning. So quarterly planning, because now it is, this thing that we're talking about with the Scrum, we're doing like every sprint cycle, which can be like a 1 week, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Typically, you don't go any further than that. The team can decide, hey, we want our sprint cycle to be 6 weeks. So this is just general, construct. But at the end of the day, you're going to work with the team and together decide like what makes sense in that environment. Because We had a project one time and we started with sprint cycle every 2 weeks because that's the recommended amount. And then they were doing it. They said, people aren't coming to meetings. Some people are good here and there. So we're going to make it 3 weeks. But you don't change every week. You're going to anchor it in something. You're going to run based on that cadence, because what we want to do is create a cadence. We want to create a routine. And you let that cadence run for a period of time. And if from that you realize, okay, guy, and the team comes together and agrees, okay, we can do this in just 1 week and get things done moving quicker. Like, we can do this fast. You adjust, but you stay at that cadence for, a period of time. You try to do it for at least a quarter. So they have come to the conclusion with any of this that a quarter is a nice block of time where you can really get a bit of a runway and make some decisions, or, it may be time for you to kind of reconsider, pivot, or whatever. So when you get to PI planning, now we're talking about quarterly planning at the team level. But remember, the teams here are much bigger. And so we have more data. Just think of the reason why we're doing quarterly, that you have more data to go on. If you're making a decision based on what you did for just 1 week, that's not telling you anything. Or 2 weeks, okay, a little bit more. A month, okay. If we have sprint cycles 2 weeks, we have 2 sprint cycles. Whoa, we know more in 2 sprint cycles than we knew before we did the first sprint. Like, we were just guessing in the beginning, like what we think we can do. But you have 1 sprint cycle, okay, we have an idea. That's still not enough. Another sprint cycle, you have more idea. Now you get to quarterly, you have several of those, and now you have some data, some insights that will make your decision-making a lot more accurate, a lot stronger. So now we want that larger block of time. Because of this complexity, we need that level of data. We need that level of insight. And so they're saying, okay, we're going to do this at the end of the quarter. And there are some reports that we're looking at. And we'll have to unpack this more as we move forward. But I wanted to just anchor your thinking and what's going on here and how the mindset of Agile works at a small level. And then we just scale it here. Elena? Is it Elena or Elaine?
Elena. Yes, Dr. Mike. On that previous chart, all of these planning intervals, this PI we're talking about, this is basically primarily the role of product manager, because this is the person who manages the flow of all those features from idea to build and release. And on the previous chart, not that one, the one before.
You mean the one where we had the basic Agile?
Yes, and there was no product manager role at all. Yeah, this one. There is product owner on it, but all of this PI planning is product manager.
Now,
and there is no product manager here.
Yeah, here's the difference: is that when we're looking at the just regular Agile, so we're not scaling. So scale, just think of the scale like we're getting bigger now. We're getting more people. It's getting more complicated. So when we're at the at just regular Agile, non-scale, it is just so simple. You just need a product owner because you're just dealing with something kind of small. And when you start getting to the scale, all right, now we need project management. And it's just language that they came up with to use to try to distinguish it. But when you do you see this essential version? Because when you scale, we're getting into larger solutions, portfolio solutions, and full solution. When you look at the smaller solution, you're still talking the same product owner language here. It's Scrum Map, but it's not until you scale and you're getting these release trains. Now you're at 125 people on a team versus 5 to 7 people or 5 to 9 people. They just changed the word. But if you look, the roles parallel. Product management. Now this is product management. This is one person right here, product owner. Product management could be multiple product owners because you have bigger teams. You have more people to manage. You have more complexity to manage. This is not product manager. This is product management, which is like a team. That makes sense? And then also over here, you have still the Scrum Master when it's at the smaller level that we just finished talking about. That transfers into the release train engineer because why? They are now managing Agile release trains. But it's still the same kind of role as the, and that's why I say understand the basic one. Because when you're scaling, you're just doing more of the same thing. bigger of the same thing, more complex of the same thing. But these people are all still in the same position. Release train engineer is still like Scrum Master. The system architect is still doing like the role of the team, but they are architecting other trains now, like bigger teams. You have an architect, a systems architect needs to do it. The role's the same. Now, another thing you can do, you want to know who the roles and all of this is, because we're running out of time. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Do you guys have access to this this link? You ever look at this link with the Scaled Agile framework?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you go to it, you can click on the release planning, PI planning. And of course, number one, it tells you, who's who and what's what. But we're talking about an art here. And what your question is about right now is who is doing what. Now, when you come down here, facilitated who? By the release train engineer. The release train engineer is equivalent to what in the smaller, I want to say scaled down version of Agile. That role is equivalent to what role in the scaled down version? Do you remember? We could just back up right here. So again, this is just here. This is the same thing as this, just at scale. So you can look at what positions these roles are in this chart. And when you come up to the bigger version of it, the more complex version, whoever's here, product owner, it's the same role being played by this product management team. So when I ask you, who is the release train engineer playing the same role as, is who? The Scrum Master.
Scrum Master.
It's just a
So
group.
they are managing the process.
It's like chief of Scrum Masters.
Yes.
Because in Agile release train, we have multiple Agile teams, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
On a train, let me just pull back on that. So on a train, you really have a team, but it's a bigger team. These teams are 125 people versus the scaled down Agile. It's only 5 to 9. So you have, you need 125 people to do the job because this is such a huge job. But if we're just building a website, we only need, a couple people.
How are they doing all those backlogs and sprints? Like if it's like such a big groups of people.
What's the question again? Repeat that.
Like if it's like product management, right? So it's a lot of, it's a product owner, but it's a group of people. But how they manage all this release training, like scrums?
Oh yeah, now you're going to have a different complexity there. Now, if you stick with Scrum, so let's say you have Scrum where you're dealing with these, I'm going to call them micro projects, although a lot of the projects we do in Scrum are very huge and complex. So don't think that just because you're doing Scrum, you're doing like some baby project. We do a lot of very complex projects, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity. Huge projects with the scale down Agile. However, so sometimes there, we have to have multiple teams, and we still have product owners from these various teams, and we have to get all of those project owners together talking. Or we might have multiple Scrum Masters where we're going to have multiple product owners and multiple Scrum Masters because we got multiple teams. So we have multiple Scrum Masters. So we will sometimes have things called Scrum of Scrums. And what a Scrum of Scrum is you're getting all the Scrum Masters. I'm just talking about in Scale Down Agile, the basic Scale Down Agile that we were talking about from this original framework. We would have different teams, 5 to 9 people deep, but let's say 100 teams. So we got 100 Scrum Masters. So now we have to have a Scrum of Scrums because if some of those teams are interacting, like some project, like what security project we were doing, we were doing something many of you have gone to school. So with that security project, it's the system that when you register for school, they create an ID, student ID for you. And that student ID is going to give you access to, what you can do in your school, what systems you can get into, right? When you log in, you can get to the library system. You can get to, a couple of shares. And depending on what school you're in, if you're engineering, you're going to have access to some resources. If you're in the School of Business, you're going to have access to other resources. If you're a teacher, you're going to have greater access to resources. So your access and your authority, just something that basic. Now, in order to make a system like that to function properly, you're dealing with different systems and different IT departments. Some of them the database department. And in database, you have different databases. Some of them are running IBM databases. Some of them are running Oracle. Some of them are running SQL. That's just databases. You have the application teams. Applications are building front-end apps. There's going to be different front-end apps for different one of these schools and functional areas. So just on that alone, and just that part of IT, you might be dealing with 20 different IT teams, IT departments. And so each of those may have separate Agile teams to handle their components of it. So the Scrum Master on each one of those teams knows what their team is doing. But one team needs to know what the other team is doing because those systems are interfacing with one another. So that means now we have to have a Scrum of Scrums because we need to have a session where those Scrum Masters are talking to each other and those product owners are talking to each other. So one knows what the other one is doing. And this is in scaled down Agile with teams of 5 to 9. I'm not even talking about scaled Agile with teams of 125. I mean, just to tell you the complexity gets. And so that's why you have to have these kind of big planning, time frames. And you want to have really a lot of data and a lot of reports that you're basing it on so that you are accurate in what these conversations are, because number one, you cannot get these scale of people and these large number of people together every day. This is not going to be any daily stand-up thing. That's why you're doing it per quarter, because you're talking about large teams from all over the world. Sometimes you can't even do it. You should do them quarterly, but you got to organize all of these people to get together at the same time, which is one reason why it's done quarterly, because you can't do that every week, right? It's very complicated. But while you're there, you're going to have these elaborate reports, these epic reports, and last quarter reports. You're going to prioritize list of epics, and as you know, an epic is much more elaborate than these user stories. So if you go to the scale chart, which we have to look at here, and we flow up, I'm going to even go to large Agile here, because here we're just dealing with team backlogs. Now we're getting with release train backlogs. These are 125 each. Here, when you scale up, you're getting to solution train backlogs. So you have multiple arts. So you have 125, 125, 125. That's one team. Each of these is one team. And this is all being managed. Here is the solution train engineers, the solutions management team, and it's the solutions architect, not as just a systems architect. You're coming with solutions at the enterprise level. You scale up to the portfolio level. Now you're getting to epics, and this is what we're talking about. We talk the language of epic because you're up here now. You're doing lean portfolio management. So you're at a very high level of sophistication here. And that's what this language is talking about now, prioritizing, at that level. So you can deliver business value at the enterprise level. And you got to understand team capacity, all of these things. These meetings are, they still try to keep some of your sync ups quick. They have to be facilitated by, you see there's S's, Scrum Masters, and so it would be the main facilitators. Now we're using this language of Scrum Master, product management, and product owners, right? PMs and product owners. But as you see here, who is really involved could be, the product management teams, and up to scale, right? All the way up to scale. But I think we're going to have to definitely spend time now digging into this, which we'll do, next time, because I don't want to overwhelm you. And I saw we're getting into this PI, and Emma, and I think, was it Eileen, who was it that asked the question? You looked at the PI here a minute ago. Was it you, Alti?
Yes,
So
I was.
You guys have read it, so you kind of have your mind a little bit tuned in a bit. So some of it will make some sense to you. But I want to get everybody. Yes, go ahead.
I think we'll figure out everything about team level, and now will be better for explaining.
That's what PI, I wanted to
because it's next level, and
it is a next
what's
level.
happened. Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing except bigger. But I think
Everything
it's good to
happened bigger.
understand the basic first, because otherwise you're going to get lost. It's, it starts getting more complicated.
So now we are figure out just one train. I mean, one train, one team inside, and the next level happen like couple trains. Then we have bigger, like maybe 2 trains or 10, and in solution level, and then portfolio. Oh my God, what happens here?
That's right. And so that's the reason why you have to have a little bit more time to, collect the data and, have these more elaborate reports, because you have a bigger pie to manage there, right?
Yes,
So you're gonna
thank you
do
so
the-
much, Dr. Mike. It was like very useful, very helpful information today's lesson. Thank you.
Yep. So all we're gonna do next time in the PI is just talk about doing this with bigger numbers and more people, right? It's bigger. Same thing though, but bigger. That's all. So the names change. All right. Thank you,
That
guys.
was really
Any
good. Thank you.
parting questions before I let you go and get to your families and all? I just wanted to make sure we were anchoring in a mindset understanding before we move to something so big.
Yeah, that was good.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Mike.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next time. A lot
Okay,
of fun. You have a good evening.
Thank
Okay.
you too. Bye bye.
All right. All the
Bye
best.
bye, guys. Good night.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good one.